Nikki Terpilowski, welcome to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you on, and just a little over sort of 5 weeks away from Colorado Gold, coming up in September. You are based where, in what city?
I am in the Raleigh area of North Carolina.
Great. And have you been out to Colorado Gold before?
I've never been there. I've never been to the state.
Well, I hope you're looking forward to it.
I am. I'm looking forward to it. I am.
All right.
My sister went to grad school there and had wonderful stories about the area, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, I'm just curious if Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers has any kind of reputation out there, if you'd heard of Colorado Gold before.
I have not.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean anything.
We want honesty. We believe in honesty on our podcast. That's good. Well, we hope you enjoy it, and I think you will find, having gone to the conference for many, many years, just a lot of talent and some really good creative energy in the conference. So we're looking forward to hosting you. Before we sort of get into some of the nuts and bolts of how you like to work and what you're looking for and things like that, could you just give us a little background on yourself and how you got into the publishing business, and how far back does the reading and writing bug go?
It begins from toddlerhood.
Okay.
I think like most agents, I have always been a reader, also a writer. And I knew I was going to do something with writing or books. And, I majored in English and creative writing, and just was always just a voracious reader and writer. And I worked in marketing communications. I worked as a technical writer. So I've done a lot of different things with writing, and I've always enjoyed working with writers. And I established my agency in 2011. So almost 12 years.
Yeah.
I've been doing this. And at that time, I was in Northern Virginia, and my offices were in DC. So sometimes you'll still see that address floating around. I'll get queries, and it has like the DC address still on there. But that was many, many moons ago. So now I'm based in North Carolina, and I've got 3 junior agents, about to bring on 1 more.
Wow.
And we're all remote, even though 2 of my team members are also in North Carolina as well. And it's been fun. It's been great.
So where were you raised? Just a little bit more on your background. Where were you raised? What kind of were you raised in a book and writing environment? And tell us a little bit about what you do right once you.
I was raised with lots of books in the house.
Yeah.
I remember I had encyclopedias. I had a whole collection of Funk and Wagnall's encyclopedia that I used to read. I was the kind of person that was like reading cereal boxes at breakfast and newspapers when they had them, and just reading everything. And I remember my dad had this leather bound case of like the classics, and it was like Last of the Mohicans, Aesop's Fables, like just like these, like, and I would read them, like, and so I was always a reader and a writer, writing short stories and poetry and just anything. So I always knew I was going to be something in the field of writing or books or publishing.
Yeah. How long did you try the writing approach before sort of turning the corner into becoming an agent, or was there no time in the writing? Did you try to become a writer? Are you still working on projects, things like that?
Right. No, I went from writing as like in marketing and in that way, and then I interned. I knew I wanted to do something in publishing, and so while I was working in other jobs, I interned with a literary agency, and that's kind of how I learned the business. And at that time, it really was more about just seeing if I wanted to do something in the industry, and I found that I really enjoyed working with writers. The business side, it was a surprise actually, in editing and all of that. So that's kind of it. Once I did that, it was like, this is definitely what I want to do.
And the decision to start your own agency versus trying to get on or latch on with another?
that was just necessity. At that time I was in Virginia, and I think there was maybe two literary agencies in DC. At that time they were all like in New York
Mhm.
primarily, and there just wasn't a lot of opportunities. So I just started my own agency.
How hard was the startup?
Um, it was easy for me because it was just me and my laptop, It was just and I got really lucky. One of my first invitations was to Moonlight and Magnolia's conference in Atlanta. And I met probably three or four of my first clients there. Sold them all by that next year. But yeah, and it just kind of went from there. And I just started small and was taking on clients that I believed in and stories that I liked. So that it felt almost like a passion project or a hobby or just an extension of like reading and writing. So it never felt like work, and I was very adamant about my representing my authors and getting those book deals for them. And it just started to happen.
How does a beginning agent reach out and make contact and develop relationships with editors, or did some of that come out of your internship experience?
Right. I feel like my experience is probably a little different from other agents, but for me, I just had the confidence that if I have a good story, editors are going to want to see it. And then it was true. So I started off knowing zero editors, and now I know all of them. I know many of them. But yeah, I was like, I got this great story. This is it. Do you want to read it? And they're like, yeah. And so the relationships came from having good stories.
Wow, how soon did you bring on your first additional staff person and or other agent?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but it was a while. I mean, it was probably maybe 2 years, 2 or 3
Mhm.
years before. I mean, I was really just kind of plugging away and really wanted to make sure that I sold my own clients, and kind of had those establish those relationships. And it kind of just fell in my hands. It was an editor that I worked with one of my clients, and she was leaving the business. And I was like, "Hey, you want to be an agent?" And she was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Come to my place." That's how I got my first agent. But after that, I have been promoting from within. So my two junior agents now are former interns that have been with me over 2 years, 2 or 3 years each. And then I brought on another person just recently to help with film and TV because I also produce.
And what does that mean exactly? You also produce.
Um, so I have a unannounced mystery with Hallmark that comes out this fall, and so that's based on a book that will be coming. That's out. That's been out for years actually, but I don't think I can say anything about it yet because it hasn't been announced publicly. But so I'm doing a lot of stuff with Hallmark right now and developing like rom coms and cozy mysteries, but also other stuff.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, without giving away anything about the title or the project itself, just give us a little glimpse into what it means to produce. It sounds like you got your fingers in every little corner of the project, probably.
Yeah,
That was an animation.
yes, yes. Um, Again, it's just me doing stuff that I love. You read a book and you're like, God, this would be a great movie. And I think that all the time. And so I I do the film rights for in the past I have done film rights for my clients. And so I just kind of looked at like my Rolodex of like contacts, and I just have had a ton of like film contacts, producers and executives at networks and things like that that I have amassed over the years. And I thought, instead of me just selling my clients' film rights to these people, how about I obtain those like rights from other writers and then shop them myself? So that's what I started doing. So my first production and co-production is not my client. It's another somebody with another agency, and I got those rights, and I pitched them to a production company that does a bunch of stuff with Hallmark, and that comes out this fall. So
Wow. I assume it did consume a lot of energy and time.
it was all fun. It's a lot of meetings, but I worked with the screenwriter, um, almost the same way you an agent or a manager does with an author, giving notes on the script and going back and forth. Not just me, but some other members of the production company. So that was the biggest, I think, part of what I did was working with the screenwriter, which I loved I love doing, and then making sure that the Hallmark executive enjoyed, liked, and signed off on what the screenwriter did. And then I got to go to Ireland a couple months ago for the production, and I do have a few pictures of that on my Instagram account. And got to see the last week of the production done, and so that was cool. Yeah.
Wow. Are there more projects like this in the pipeline?
Yes.
Sounds like maybe now we know why you're bringing on staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very, very busy. But yeah, the last person I brought on is for film and TV. And so she'll be supporting me there, but also building her own small list as well.
Wow. I mean, that's super exciting, isn't it? I mean, to look back 12 years ago, was this in the cards?
I always hoped it would be. Yeah, I actually thought like when I was in college that I would end up in like the film and TV business, probably as a screenwriter, um, just something behind the scenes. And so it's always kind of been in the back of my head that I would love to just be able to take these books that I read and turn them into TV and film. It's like just an amazing thing to be able to do that. So very, very grateful that I got that first one done and have several other projects that are in development.
Wow, that is
So
really
yeah,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. It's great.
Congrats.
I love to be able to help writers turn their manuscripts into books, and then to turn those books into like TV and film is amazing.
That is fantastic. Wow. Well, when you do come out to Colorado Gold, and I assume you go to conferences from time to time, you must, can you tell us a little bit about a couple of things, just what you look for in general, what's on your wish list, how you like to interact with folks, and kind of just overall, what's your message these days about the state of the industry and how we're doing?
That's a lot. That's
Yeah, I
a lot
know.
of questions.
I know.
Let's see.
I'll give you 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, that first one was what am I looking for?
Yeah.
God, it changes all the time actually, but right now, um, I guess I'm looking for good contemporary romance. Um, I would love to. Okay, what I really want to find right now is some like a good like Jack Reacher type series. It doesn't have to be like specifically Jack Reacher, but just like a military, former military, Jason Bourne, something like that. That's what I really want right now. I want like one or two for my own list to like sell that and then turn it into a TV show. That would be awesome. So definitely looking for that. Young adult fantasy is another one. I'm not big on young adult, but I do like young adult fantasy, young adult sci-fi. And I would say that I don't want any more cozy mystery. I'm kind of burned out on that. But traditional mystery, historical mysteries, psychological thrillers. I'm not looking for anything like super dark, like no serial killers, no horror, but I do like gothic. I would love to find like something that was like a Mexican gothic.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be Mexican, it could be Southern or whatever, but just something that's kind of like atmospheric and dreary and spooky, kind of psychologically spooky.
Gotcha.
And historical romance, I like that as well.
So you are somewhat of an omnivore. You move across the
Hmm.
whole waterfront.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read and represent a lot of different things. It's just
That's,
whatever I like and whatever I think can sell, I can sell.
well, I think it would be helpful to like it. I mean, you've got to like the category. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would never represent something that I wouldn't read myself just because like it's a hot thing to sell.
Yeah. So how do you like to work with folks when you kind of come out? I assume you're going to do some critiquing, you're going to take some pitches, you'll probably be on a panel, at least one, and talk about how things are going. Are you approachable in the in-between times? Can I come up to you and say, hey, can I
I'm
buy?
not approachable.
Yeah, I can tell. I
Yes,
can
no,
tell.
I'm so not approachable.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when I'm at a conference, I'm there for that reason. So, I mean, just, as we all say, just don't come to us like in the bathroom. But
Yeah.
if I'm like walking around or something, it's fine. Like I'm at a conference. That's what I'm there for. you know. And it never, like, no one in my real life knows like what I do. So it's not like if I'm going to Trader Joe's or the grocery store, someone's going to pitch me, because no one knows I'm a literary agent like in my real life. So only at conferences does that happen, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be at a conference. I was just at Thriller Fest a couple of months ago and was talking to someone, and sometimes they're like a little shy, and they're like, yeah, I'm an author and I'm working on this story. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, pitch me. What is it? What you got? And they're like, okay. So yeah, I don't mind. As long as I'm not in some weird awkward situation where I don't want to talk, but
Yeah.
typically, sure, that's fine.
Have you picked up any clients at conferences that have you led to a relationship?
um yeah, I picked up a new writer at Thriller Fest, and I got a bunch of great pitches that I haven't had a chance to go through all of them, but I went through like the first 50 and found one guy, which I signed, and he's got a great story, like crime fiction. I'm really kind of like on like I was telling you, like not necessarily like a military thriller kick right now. I'm really looking for some good stuff. Um, so I saw his and I was like, let me read this really quick, and I signed him like a week later. So so I'm always looking, and a conference is a great place.
Yeah.
Especially because you get that one-on-one connection. Like, I'll remember your face and we can talk and I can ask questions. So I love meeting people at conferences and getting those pitches.
Yeah, it just must change the dynamic completely to have the actual person right there and be able to kind of get a sense for who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that counts for a lot. Just the relationship is a relationship, and you've got to kind of get along at some level or a lot of levels.
All levels.
Yeah,
It helps, if you, and that's one of those things that sometimes I'll do presentations on, like how to find an agent. And you have to make sure that there's a good rapport and that you like the person, and the communication styles mesh and all those types of things. And it's hard to get all of that through email. So a conference is a great place for that first impression, and to know, okay, I like this person, I think I could work with them.
yeah. Do any of your prospective clients, people you might sign up, give you the question about, is North Carolina okay to work with an agent based in North Carolina? How are you going to make me a big star? And because the power is all in New York.
I used to get that when I first started and I didn't have a lot of sales, maybe. I really don't get that anymore. And especially with the pandemic and everything closed and lots of editors moved away from New York and everything went remote. So I literally don't get that question anymore. But I would say that this only works because I have internet. Because I have the internet, I can send emails and I can Zoom and I can call, and I do lots of conferences. And when I go to conferences, I always network and have lunches with editors that I know or that I don't know. Like I said, so I'm always like cognizant of the fact that I need to like maintain relationships. And so I do have great friends and relationships with different editors, and we just see each other, face to face at conferences and things like that. But it hasn't been an issue for me, and no one that I have worked with has ever cared. Or at
Yeah.
least they've never said anything to me like, why aren't you in New York?
Yeah.
It's just email, Zoom, and now, so it's fine.
Yep. That's
If
great.
you have a good story, nobody cares where you are. You could be in Alaska. They just want to give me the story. Doesn't
But
matter.
that's kind of encouraging in a way. Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, it's encouraging that it might be moving away from being just all centered in New York. And maybe that's one good thing out of the pandemic, or maybe that was starting before the pandemic.
I don't know. I don't know that it was starting before. And then I know that I was just talking to an agent friend who was with an agency, and they were like, no remote. You have to be in New York. So there are some agencies that are like, we're going to stay here, but there are many that have people that are working in different places, and
Yeah.
it's okay. They still maybe have maintained that office there because there's like a cachet to like, yes, I'm a New York agency. I'm based in New York, but um for me, I never really cared because it just wasn't a possibility. I was a
Yeah.
military spouse at the time, and my husband was in the Marines, and like we were moving around every 3 years. So I was like, I don't care that I can't be in New York. I'm just gonna like do my thing, and so.
That's great. So somebody in your position, and you got to meet writers, but you also have to meet editors, I would assume, and try to expand the number of editors you know and who's buying. How do you go about that? Do you ever just kind of just touch base with an editor and just say, I noticed a project you just published that really meant a lot to me. I'd like to just put you on my radar and make sure you know I'm here and looking for quality projects in the same kind of area.
Right. I mean, I'll say at this point that I do know a lot of editors
Yeah.
just from the business of being an agent, but there are always, I'll say new editors, but usually those new editors were assistant editors or, and I still may have already have talked to them, which is why I'm always super polite to everyone because you never know when they're going to be like running the imprint. But it was like I was just saying, I I have lots of meetings when I have go to meeting when I go to conferences. Like when I went to Thriller Fest, I probably met with like 15 editors, for coffee, for drinks, for lunch, and it's just to. And then when I'm going to BoucherCon, and I'll do the same thing. And I actually have a bunch of conferences like all in like the next couple of months, and wherever there's an editor, like I'm gonna like touch base.
Yep.
And besides that, we do a lot of Zooms, you know. And sometimes I'll have an editor reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm a new editor. Would love to chat with you about your list and just kind of touch base." So that happens, and then sometimes I will see like a new something that will come out or something that kind of catches my eye, and I'll just like send a short note if it's someone I don't know. I'm like introduce myself and not even pitching something, just say, "Hey, I read this book that I just read on Publishers Marketplace that what that you require sounds amazing. I can't wait to read it," and things like that. And it's funny because sometimes I've done that, then they'll send me the book when it comes out, you know. And I'm just not even trying to do that, just trying to be nice and but always like meeting new people and because it is. I will say that I mean it's a relationship based industry, but if you have a great story and you don't know them, they will still read it. You know,
Yep.
they just will.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you in BoucherCon before Colorado Gold, but I may not see you at BoucherCon because that place is just always a zoo. And I have good friends. I know they're there somewhere, but I never see them. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe a bad house.
Yeah. Yep. It looks like a great place though. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So what are your just tips, I guess, for especially new writers might be coming to their first ever conference. They just finished a project. They feel a little intimidated by big time agent. What what do you suggest for writers in that situation who want to pitch you and grab your attention?
um, I would suggest that they do their research before they come, see who's going to be there, and then research those agents. Look at their website, read if they have blogs, look at their social medias. Just say one so you know who they are when they're walking around and you know what they're looking for. You don't want to waste your time pitching an agent who's not looking for what you have. I mean, you can talk to them and whatever, but if you're there to pitch, then make sure you've done that research. Um, conferences are all about learning, so sit on go to the panels, listen to the critiques, get the feedback. I think one of the best things about about conferences are the critiques that you can get,
Yeah.
and if you can get like FaceTime with an agent who can actually tell you to your face, like why this something works or doesn't, like that's gold. Because, if you're a writer and you're sending your work out, you're not usually going to get feedback. It's just like, not for me, or this is, I like it, but I didn't love it, or whatever. You're not going to know why. So a conference is a great place to get, can you please tell me why this doesn't work? Or, get that query critiqued or the first 15 pages or whatever it is. I think that's one of the best things about a panel is that FaceTime.
I couldn't agree more. I've told so many people that very same thing. It's just such a great opportunity. And you get to read other works, people at your table, and really get a feel for why something is doing, why your prose is doing well and or some areas to address. So I really think that's a invaluable thing I assume that takes a lot of your time to just get ready for something like that.
It does. If it's the type of conference where I'm sent things beforehand, there's some conferences, or I'll get the material and I'll just work on it, and then there are some panel or conferences that I'll go to where I'm just like doing kind of on this off the cuff, like critiques and things like that, which is a little harder because you don't have a lot of time to prepare. But if it's a query or something very short, it's just fine. But yeah, it can be a little time consuming, but I mean, that's part of the conference for the agent. You kind of, going in that you're going to be reading material and critiquing. So,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a job that you created for yourself, and just, I mean, it sounds like you just, you love what you do and love what you do to help others.
I do. I do. I'm really blessed that I'm able to do what I love, and I do enjoy working with writers. And I love going into bookstores and saying, "Oh, there's a book that I helped, birth." And so sometimes my name is in there, like, "Thank you, Nikki," blah blah blah. But like, it's wonderful. I love being able to help writers turn their words into stories, into books.
That's great. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, and I didn't prepare you for this, but we always like to ask our guests to recommend one writer or one all-time favorite book, or something that you just think might need a little boost or spotlight just to kind of pay it forward a little bit. Something maybe you read recently, or maybe just an all-time classic. It doesn't really matter.
I wish I had known before. That's a
I
hard
know I didn't give
question.
you any, or you can even celebrate one of your writers if you'd like to.
Uh, hmm. Um, I'm gonna say I have a writer named Catherine Bruns. She does cozy mysteries, and she's got a really great series called the Italian Chef series, the Italian Chef Mysteries. And it's a really great mystery, even though it's a cozy, it's a really like kind of meaty mystery. That's kind of like a pun because it's got a lot of Italian food in it. But it's really, really good. I would suggest reading those.
Great. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for coming on the podcast. We'll see you in Denver, and maybe I'll see you in San Diego.
Right. Maybe. Thank you.